Hi, welcome to Powerful Loving Kindness Naturally. I'm Bryan Martin,
And I'm Jennifer Martin.
and today we're going to be looking at love, the L in love. But before we do that, we want to recap a little bit about the 12 fundamental observations. And what we'd like to do is that we'd like to read to you what we call our confirmations. And when you read these, I'm hoping that you will personalize them and make them your own. So that's what I think we're going to do. And would you like me to do this part?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. So we call these our confirmations. And what these are is a review of the fundamental observations from the fundamental observations chapter. There's 12 of them. And we've transformed them into a statement. And so I personalized it, and this is how it goes. Are you ready? The fact that I'm alive today is an astounding, amazing miracle of astronomical proportions. When I consider the odds of my existence in the universe, I am totally and completely amazed. I am a miracle. I'm endowed with and I have acquired gifts and skills and talents and tools for my personal benefit and for the benefit of others. I am gifted. I was born a loving, kind person. It is in my DNA, a fundamental aspect of being human. I am loving and kind. I delight in helping others. I have a philanthropist's heart. I am a survivor, and I come from an ancient line of survivors. I am a natural human, part of the stars, the earth, and ancient ancestors of natural reality, not the product or the pawn of human created social group thinking or social reality. I am a natural person and I use social reality as a tool. Our human brain may be the most amazing entity in the universe. My brain is creative and innovative, and I can do more than I can imagine. When working with others, our brains can solve life's most challenging problems. My brain is phenomenal. I have great control over my thoughts and my feelings and emotions. I create them and I'm not subject to them. I can control them in a moment for better living and loving. I gain from loss. I am anti fragile. This does not minimize loss. There may be opportunities after loss that were never expected beyond what I might think to be possible. I make loss meaningful. My life is made even better by my supportive small groups. They help me to be healthier, more human, and whole. We are better together. Home is the most important place in the world. My home is the center of love. Love is the answer and the most important thing. Love is my greatest experience. I am a loving, kind person. And that is our confirmations that come from the 12
Observations.
12 fundamental observations that we have, and we reviewed that last week in lesson number 1. And so today it's different.
Today it is.
Mhm.
Today we're going to talk about love, and that love, L-O-V-E, is the most important, wonder-filled, and beautiful thing.
Mhm.
And so one of the things we wanted to point out is the aim of this book. What is that?
Well, first of all, This is a personal growth book cleverly disguised as a relationship book, but it's not a relationship book. This book is to help individuals grow personally and spiritually by using the home model. And the home model emphasizes love. And so that's what the L is for in love.
Well, you got us a little ahead there.
Mhm.
But the other part is that the aim of this book is for you, the listener, to fully identify yourself as a loving, kind
person.
human.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, Bryan,
Wouldn't it be great though if your identity was, if you walk up to somebody and shake their hand and say, "Hi, how are you? Great. What do you do for a living?"
I'm a loving, kind
I
person.
know.
It would
They
be
kind of blow
really,
them away. They go, "Oh."
but yeah, that should be what
I
our
know. It should be.
primary
Right.
identity is.
Right.
So, Bryan, what is the L? What does that stand for in love?
There's three things that stands for. There's loving kind thoughts, loving kind words, and loving kind actions. And notice that they're all loving kind. And so it's very, very important to understand the nature of love, their thoughts, their actions, and their words.
Sometimes I know that I'm a mind reader.
Are you?
Yeah.
I went to school and I took a class in mind reading and I was failing it.
Well, you didn't hang around with me then.
Well, the professor called me into the office and he said, "Bryan, I'm sorry, but I think that you're going to fail this class." You know what I said?
What did you say?
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, I know that sometimes I have said things like, well, I'm sure you think this about me.
Mhm.
And sometimes when I say that, it's this isn't a very nice thing. And what is your response to that?
It's a loving kind response.
It is. And what do you say?
You'll have to remind me what I say.
You say, I think only.
Oh, okay. I know now.
Okay.
I only think good thoughts about you all the time, except when I don't. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And then I stop and I go back and I start all over again to think loving, kind thoughts.
I think that for you that has worked wonderfully
I think
in not only thinking loving kind thoughts about me, but about other people. I notice that sometimes the conversation around someone may be negative or not very nice,
Mhm.
and you'll stop and then you'll only say nice things.
Mhm.
And so I think that's one way that it works for you. For me, I picture a radio dial.
Mhm.
And so when I find myself listening to bad thoughts or thinking bad thoughts about people, I have to visualize myself turning the dial on the radio to another station so that I don't stay in um, that mode of only thinking bad things, because that's not what we're supposed to do.
And what's sad to me is that so many people do not control their thoughts and they just say the first thing out of their mouth or the first thing that comes to their mind without thinking about it. And it's not nice. And it's disappointing when you just kind of walking around or sitting in a restaurant or just overhearing people's conversations, then and you can hear the negativity that's in it. It's very, very disappointing because we can control our thoughts and we can think loving, kind thoughts all the time.
Well, you read a book and shared it with me about thoughts. I think it was called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow.
It's part of it's in there, and it's coming up. And if it's not in this chapter, it's in the next chapter.
Well, it actually is in this
Is it
chapter.
in the chapter?
Uh-huh. And did you want to say anything about that. I know we go more in depth later,
Mhm.
but did you want to say anything about thinking fast
Yeah,
and thinking
Daniel
slow?
Kahneman wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow, and that was something that pretty much changed my life when I read that book because I didn't know that there were two modes. Now, these are just metaphors for how the mind works, but nevertheless, they're powerful and helpful tools. And what the book is, it's a list of all kinds of different tools that are available to help people to rediscover their loving, kind nature and to do things like to only think loving, kind thoughts all the time. And so the idea is to not let system one thoughts prevail in your thinking. And those are the thoughts that just come to you suddenly. Your brain is working 90 miles an hour, even faster than that. And you have all these things that are cooking in your brain. And sometimes it's very, very tempting just to speak it before you even think about it. And it's very, very helpful for me as a person uh, to not say the first thing that comes to mind. As a matter of fact, I think I talk a lot less than I ever did before because I'm not anxious to get the word out of my mouth. I'm willing to stop for a minute and think for a minute before I move forward with it. Thought control is the secret to a happy life. And here is how you can begin is by controlling and only speaking, only thinking, not speaking, only thinking loving thoughts about the other all the time. And it's true, Jennifer. I only think good thoughts about you all the time. And I am a human being, and every once in a while, something will slip in there, but I will catch it, and when I catch it, I will move forward with a loving, kind thought. That is a fantastic personal growth skill.
It really is. And what I have found is that it's really hard to take words back once they're spoken.
No, it's not. It's impossible to
And
take it back once they're spoken.
and people remember what was spoken
And
first.
not only do they remember it, but they think that's what your real thought is.
That's right.
But it's not your real thought.
No.
It's just one of those weird firings that are just going off at that particular time. And if you will go to system two, which is your measured thought, think algebra. Don't think one and plus one. Think x squared plus y squared equals z squared. What is z? And then that kind of process will slow you down and help you to think a better way to say that you want to say. But Jennifer, let me just give a little warning here, and that is this: that even system two isn't always correct.
No, I know that too.
Yeah.
I've
And so
experienced
and
that.
so you can have a system two experience and thought, and then you can go back and you can say to yourself, wow, I think I would have said that differently under different circumstances. So, but the idea is this: system one is always going to be there, and it's active and it's working, and that's the way that your mind functions. But you don't have to speak that thought. You can hold it and you can change it in an instant, and to where you want where it really represents what your thought process is.
I think it's fun when you get to system one and you realize that more often than not, your system one is saying loving, kind words.
Yes. Do you know why that is? Can I tell you why?
Why?
Because we are loving, kind people, and that is our natural default state, except when we're overridden by our socialization, our cultural indoctrination, and then it's more challenging. But naturally, we're loving, kind people. And naturally, we only want to support and encourage people. We only want to be optimistic. We only want to be encouraging and all those things. We don't want to be negative in any way.
So the L stands for little things, which are loving, kind thoughts, loving, kind words, and then loving, kind acts. And do
Yes.
you want to say something about loving, kind acts?
Well, can we take some time to talk about that?
I'd love to.
Because this is probably one of the most exciting and interesting parts of the book is loving kind acts, and I use a case study here of Pope Francis, who passed away, not too
Mhm.
long ago. In 2015, he made a trip to the United States, and he got off of the airplane and was got into his little vehicle and was driving away, and all the people were on the tarmac waving at him, and he motioned the car to stop. And when he stopped, everybody said, "What is he doing?" And Francis got out of the vehicle, walked over to the crowd, and there was a child that was being held by his parents who was maladjusted. There was something going wrong. I don't know if he had cerebral palsy or something like that, but there's something wrong with him. And Francis had seen him, and Francis got out of the car and intentionally walked over to him and held his head in his hands and kissed him while all the people that were around there were watching him. And this was a miracle for this family, because the Pope had come over and had found their child and kissed him and blessed him. And not only did he bless the baby, the boy, but he blessed everybody else by his words and his actions. He got back into his car and he drove off. And this is an astounding story. Now, take a look at the story from Pope Francis' perspective. He's always looking for an opportunity to help somebody. That's just the way he is. He's always looking for something that he can do to make a difference in a person's life. And so it's not something that's unnatural to him. That's what he does as a human being. He's just always looking for it. And so he goes over and then he finds the boy, and he goes, focuses in on him and says, "That's the one. I'm going to bless that boy, and it's going to have a ripple effect in everybody's life." And not only for the people that were there, but here we are, how many years later? 10 years later, and we're still telling the story, and
Right.
it's still a powerful story, and it still illustrates an incredible point,
An emotional
and it's a
story.
deeply emotional point. And he knew all of this stuff. And here's my point about this, is that you and I, even though we're not a pope, because what he did was not just the function of a religious leader, what he did was a human act. And anybody can do that. Anybody can have that kind of an impact on somebody else. And so what he did was he touched him with a kiss. And here's something about touch. First of all, I want to tell you and tell everybody else that you should never touch anybody without their permission. So, for instance, when I go up to somebody and I want to give them a hug, it's typically not unless I really know that person very well, I am not going to just go up and hug them. But I'm going to ask, "May I give you a hug?" And the reason that I'm asking is because I don't know what their life experience is, and having a stranger touch them might feel awkward or not right for them for whatever reason in the world.
Or even if they're not a stranger to you, it may be that at that moment,
Or they just don't want a hug. They just don't
right.
like them.
Or maybe they like them, but not at that moment.
Not at that moment or that time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Always, it's important to ask somebody if you can hug them or if you can touch them first. Now, the Pope, he kind of like has permission. We have permission to touch and to hug somebody also. And, but we have to get it from the people, and then we can do that. So he did that. And the impact on the family, can you imagine what the family experienced through
It
that?
had to be highly
Oh my
emotional.
gosh, do you think they still talk about that?
I'm sure
Do
they
you,
do.
they still do. And it had such a dramatic and a wonderful impact on that family, even today. They thought that they were accepted. They thought that they were blessed. They thought that they were important. And all of these wonderful, positive things happened simply because he kissed the boy. That blows my mind. And that's something that we need to remember. The touch is very, very, very powerful. In fact, do you remember in the early days when after church people would come down and want to be prayed for?
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that we would do is we call it laying on of hands. Now, this isn't in the book, but it's part of our life and part of our memory. And so what we would do when people would come forward, and they would respond to the call. Hey, if you want prayer, come on down. There's somebody down here who's trained, and they can pray with you. And you come, and they would come down. And typically, what I would do is I would take their hand in my hand. I would say, "Can we hold hands?" And when we hold hands, there's something dynamic that's happening inside of people, and it's not supernatural. It's the human touch. The human touch is conveying and relaying information to the other person that's affecting them positively, sending powerful, nurturing, loving chemicals throughout their body and into their brain. And while we're touching them and praying for them, we're saying words that are reassuring words. And all this is happening. And sometimes when you watch the people's faces, you could see autonomic changes in their face, like their face might change colors and their eyes might start fluttering. And they're actually, as a result of you having a touching them and holding them, their hands, they're having an autonomic response that's beautiful and it's powerful. Touch is amazing, and it's very, very important for us to do. Like, babies must have touch in order for them to thrive. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that we make sure that the touch is wanted. And when we do that, then we can make a fantastic intervention in a person's life, even if it's just for a moment.
And Bryan, I think loving actions, a lot of times it is through a touch, but there's also other loving actions that aren't necessarily um, passed to someone through a touch. A loving action can just even be by doing something for them that they didn't expect, maybe that they did expect, but you did it lovingly.
Some easy things like giving somebody flowers. But you know what the most powerful one is?
Know what?
The smile.
A smile is really important because I know that when you smile at someone, it makes them feel accepted.
It makes them feel loved. It makes them feel accepted. It makes them feel worthy. It makes them feel affirmed. It makes them feel more positive. And you are the champion smiler. I don't know anybody who smiles as lovely and as beautifully and as powerfully as you do.
Well,
It's amazing. Your smile, I've watched your smile melt people in a real powerful and loving way. It's beautiful.
well, thank you. I really think that a smile conveys a lot.
It does. But can I go back to words for just a minute? Loving,
Yeah,
kind words.
sure.
What I just did to you was I shared with you some loving, kind words about your smile. How did that feel?
That felt really good.
It did, didn't it?
Mhm.
And that's another thing is that words can be like a dull knife being stabbed into somebody's chest, a bad word. Have you ever heard people speak contemptuously to each other?
It, it's ugly, not even for the people involved, but for all those around.
I can't even bring myself to give an example because
No.
it's so ugly. It's so abusive. And when I hear people use contemptuous words to another person and tear them down, it's like they're cutting the flesh. But let me give you another example of how powerful a few words can be. There was this couple, and they had just had a nice dinner on the beach at a restaurant and on looking out over the beach and everything. And afterwards, they walked out on a promenade. And on the promenade there, the sun was setting, and you could hear the ocean, the waves were crashing. And then all of a sudden, he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a box. And his friend, his girlfriend, she automatically moves her hands to her face because she's anticipating what he's going to say. And he gets down on one knee and he says four little words. Will you marry me? And those four words are the most powerful words that she has ever heard before. And she starts crying too. And and she never, 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 never forgets that moment. It is so deeply in her heart. It says, those four words says, I love you, I want you, I value you, you're the most important person in the world to me, in four little words. So our loving, kind words are just so terribly, terribly important. And 95% of the love that we give to others is loving thoughts, loving words, and loving actions. What's next in there?
Well, we talk about play.
Yes. And I have a beautiful example about play.
And we categorize this under loving kind actions.
Yes, it's a loving kind action. But my boys remember this. I think you probably remember it also about how we play sumo wrestler.
I remember that.
So I don't know if you know what sumo wrestling is, but sumo wrestling is where these two large men try to manipulate each other out of the ring, and they push each other, and they dress in their sumo outfit, which is like a glorified underwear. So what I used to do with the boys is that I would move all the furniture back, and we would strip down to our tidy whities, and we take the back of them and put it up in the crack there, and so the butt was hanging out, and
I remember this.
we would be in our tidy whities, and we do sumo wrestling, and we'd march around, and we would grunt, and then we'd attack each other, and tickle each other, and play with each other. That's a fun game. That is a really fun thing to do, and they always remember that. I've done a lot of funerals because I help a lot of families, and what I hear a lot about dads that passed away is about how they would play with their kids.
Playing is a wonderful way to show
And to
love.
communicate love. Yeah.
Mhm. And then there's some other, such as extraordinary courtesies.
Yeah. Extraordinary courtesies, like opening the door, like saying thank you, please, you're welcome. Yes, those are all important words.
May I help?
May I help? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that chapter is a really beautiful chapter. And I hope that when the reader gets that they'll take some time to take a close look. On that chapter, I introduced the four precepts of loving kindness, and the first one is about loving. First one is about loving kindness, loving kind thoughts, loving kind words, and loving kind deeds. And I encourage people um, to 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 read it and to accept it as their own, and to say that they will practice it and that they will do it. So there's an opportunity at the end of each of the other chapters, the lessons about how to make those precepts come alive in their lives.
You moved a little faster than I did,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the things I wanted to talk about is one of the loving kind actions is to be fully present with someone. And that for me has been a real personal growth area, because it's easy to multitask.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone comes and talks to you, it's pretty easy to say, oh, let me continue on and I'm listening. And yet you're not fully engaging. And so one of the things that you've taught me and that you've shared with me is that if you turn your body towards the person who's talking to you and you stop what you're doing and you look at them, that experience for them is totally different than if you continue working and are just multitasking while you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
So being fully present is another way to really show loving kindness.
Mm-hmm. There's another story in the book that I won't tell the whole story, but Jesus is interrupted in the story. He's on his way to Jerusalem, and he's just really focused. And there is a man who's described as a rich man who comes and falls on his knees at Jesus' feet and says, Jesus, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And so Jesus, kind of brushes him off. Well, do what the commandments say, you know. And the man says, well, I've done it all of my life, but still I do this. And then this most dramatic line in the Bible, it says, Jesus turned and loved him.
That's
And then he
powerful.
spoke to him. He stopped everything that he was doing. The whole world stopped for a moment when he turned and he focused and he gave him all of his attention at that particular moment. And that's powerful when people do that. Yeah, you're right. It's real tempting to look what's happening behind their shoulder and not to look in their eyes. And it's a skill to stay focused, because your mind is still going 90 miles an hour, a lot faster than that.
And you're seeing and hearing other things
You're
around
seeing and
you.
hearing and being able to stay with the person and to be present. It's a skill. It's a powerful skill. The whole book is about acquiring specific skills so that you can rediscover and re-nurture and re-experience your loving, kind nature.
Well, I love this chapter. I love little things. And I love knowing that I can categorize those loving actions or loving things into loving thoughts, loving words, and loving actions.
It's really simple, isn't it?
It really is.
It's really simple, and it's really complex, and it's really life-changing.
It truly is.
Awesome. So that's it for today then. And next week, do you know what we're going to be doing?
The O.
The O. The uh-oh. Hope you can make it, because it's about the O. It's oxytocin. Hope you have a great day. I'm Bryan Martin.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we want you to experience the powerful, loving kindness that's naturally in your heart. Take care now. Bye bye.